Okay, let's see how this works. Hey, pretty good. All right, so who am I? I've been doing coaching since about 2006. In 2012, I wrote a book called The Culture Game. And then in 2015, I wrote another book called the OpenSpace Agility Handbook. And you can see I have some, clients there that are kind of large from the United States. Now I work with OpenSpace inside Agile adoptions, and I use an iterative approach that begins and ends in OpenSpace, and it creates an enterprise-wide iteration. So that's what I do now. And since 2006, I've been party to some 40, what we say, valiant attempts at transformation. But because many of these had sort of a forced march quality, they were actually transformations. Sort of that zombie state where you're disengaged and you don't really want to be there, and you know what I mean. So I was hoping maybe we could level up a little bit from this zombie state and go a little bit further. So if you go on the web, you'll find that I have published, free to the world, some 60 Agile coaching lessons. You can Google this and find them. And there's resources there and lessons that you can go and see my approach and philosophy and the things that I think are good. Okay, so I'd like you to think of a time when you were truly, truly enthused to be at work, that you could not wait to go back to work because the work was so engaging. And the people there were people that you actually wanted to work with, and they wanted to work with you. And I'm sure you had a moment like that at least once in your career. So what would it be like to actually have this feeling of engagement, this feeling of enthusiasm, this feeling of I feel good, right, at work every single day, right? So this is the promise. This is the promise, the potential that we actually have as coaches, as professionals in the Agile space. We have this opportunity in front of us to create this kind of feeling, right? And this has the potential to bring a lot of happiness and goodness to the world. Most people are on a forced march to work every day, right? So what would it be like to actually want to go to work each day? What would that be like? So think of a time when you really wanted to go. That sort of mountaintop feeling, that peak feeling, right? Okay, so what does a great workplace actually feel like for individuals, right? So here's some attributes. One, a genuine sense of control. You know where the levers are. You know where the dials are. You know how to adjust the temperature and the lighting and everything else around you. You know how to operate the thing. You have a sense of control. And a sense of control gets a very, very bad reputation. We refer to people who like control as control freak, right? Yet, anytime you were happy, you had a strong and genuine sense of control. So think about times you're not happy and ask yourself, what was my feeling of control then? It was probably very low, okay? Secondly, a genuine workplace that's happy, a great place to be, you are experiencing progress. It's a little known fact that the one true source of human happiness is actually being productive. Productivity is a great source of human happiness, to complete something. So a sense of progress is something we all wish for. And then finally, a genuine sense of belonging, a sense of community, a sense of membership, a sense of I'm a member of a group that I enjoy and who enjoy me, right? And then finally, a genuine sense of purpose, because purpose ties everything together. Okay, so these are the basic components of happiness, not just at work, but in life in general. If you have these genuine senses of control, progress, and belonging, and especially purpose, you can feel very good. So this is what we actually can bring. These, as coaches, as Agile professionals, we have the goods. We can deliver this. So, for example, good Scrum delivers this. The sense of control, the sense of progress and productivity, the sense of team, belonging, purpose, right? All those things are there. So that's as good as it gets. and good Scrum can deliver this. The larger question is, how do we get there? How do we get there? And specifically, what's in the way? What is blocking us from this greatness, this very good thing that Scrum has the potential to deliver, right? So what's in the way? What are the points of tension? What are the frustrations? What are the difficult dilemmas that we're facing every day when we go to work and we don't have ideal sense of control, belonging, progress, purpose? What are the blockers? Well, how many people here are responsible in some way for the Agile transformation? Okay, a lot of people. Okay, so let's go through this. Here's one dilemma. Agile's about learning and applying that learning. But learning comes in second when crunch time comes. And it's always crunch time. Right? Okay. And if you're the Agile transformation lead, you're the one responsible for the success or the failure of the transformation effort. Yet, you literally need everyone to help you. And some don't. Some of the important people don't. And they block you. If you're the Agile transformation lead, you are empowered to make this thing happen. Yet, it's our internal customers who are really in the driver's seat. And what they say is valuable is constantly changing. And we have to face that. So these are some of the things that we're up against every day of the week. Okay? If you're the product owner, what about those product owners? What are the dilemmas that the product owners face? I'm the product owner, but the Scrum Guide says that everyone in the enterprise is supposed to respect my decisions. Yet, they don't. I have all the responsibility and not enough real authority to execute. Very low sense of control, very low sense of progress, maybe a very low sense of belonging as well. I'm the product owner, and to build a great product, I absolutely depend on feedback from stakeholders. Yet, we cannot get their commitment to give us feedback at the end of each sprint. They're unwilling or unable. Something's terribly wrong with their commitment. So let's unpack all of these dilemmas now. Let's figure this out. I'm the product owner, and the Scrum Guide says I am responsible for everything in the backlog, that I am the owner of the backlog. I am the product owner. Yet, I need the team to help me, and they're not exactly helpful. So, here we go again. Like low control, low progress, low sense of belonging. You get the picture here. Okay. So, if we're going to lead a successful transformation, we're going to have to focus on a few things and do them well. Here's what some of those things are. We need to think about the way authority is distributed. We need to pay attention to this and actually use it to our advantage. We need to get good agreements. Without good agreements, we have nothing. We need to focus on experiments and experimentation. Without experimentation, you are not doing any kind of thing that's good in an Agile sense. And then we need to really put self-management front and center and make self-management the star of the show. Because self-management is what actually scales, not your framework. And then we need to educate, guide, coach, mentor, counsel leaders, and teach them to be more inviting, because invitations, it turns out, is a key to self-management. Every invitation comes with a small decision from the receiver. Decisions are very engaging. So let's take a look at this. Agile software development, what is it actually? Well, here's two pieces from the manifesto. It's about individuals and interactions, and it's about motivated people People who are motivated, not unmotivated, but truly engaged. And then we must trust them and give them the environment and support they need. So let's take a look at this. The reality is, the impediments to good Agile are the worries, anxieties, and fears of people who will be displaced. So, managers, business analysts, architects, these are the folks who are justifiably concerned. Now, most organizations value role over person, right? Now, if they valued people over role, they're probably already doing good Agile and they don't need it because they're already there. So in the organizations where we come in, what actually happens is role is valued more than person, and this is a cause of anxiety and worry for many people. So here's the story. When you do good Agile, when you do good Scrum, one thing is true. The way you distribute authority is going to change. So think about this as you approach your Agile adoption. Some people are going to have a little less authority, some are going to have a little more. This is automatically making people very nervous. The resistance is built in. Why? Because you're redistributing authority in a new way, and this is very triggering for many of the people in the situation. They become unwilling. Scrum. Scrum is an authority distribution schema. It's a plan for refactoring the way you distribute authority. That's what it actually is. We can think of Scrum as a game about authority. Everyone is triggered by Scrum, even the team members. Why? Team members have more authority when we play the Scrum game in a genuine and authentic way. That in itself is a cause for anxiety and worry. Can you see why? If I'm now responsible for decision making as a team member with my team, I am now accountable for these decisions, not my manager. That can be kind of scary, right? Okay. So, here's an exercise. I would like you to find someone next to you. I'd like you to turn to them and describe an impediment at work, and then decompose this, study it, and find the authority dimension in the impediment. And then when you're done, the other person goes. So find somebody, describe an impediment to good Agile at work, a good Scrum at work, and then analyze it from an authority point of view and tell them what the authority problem is here. Go ahead, take a minute or two. So for homework, I want you to do this at work. I want you to look at impediments through an authority frame, through an authority lens. Scrum's an authority distribution framework. Authority is at the root of your trouble. Did anyone identify an impediment that did not have an authority foundation? Okay, let's move on to the next concept. So redistributing authority is difficult. It's at the root of our trouble. We want to increase the sense of control, belonging, progress, and purpose. Scrum invites us to do that. Maybe we're not really playing Scrum at work, and that's part of the problem. Maybe we're playing some other game. Or maybe a subset of us are playing Scrum, and the rest are just not playing at all. Okay? Okay. So, agreements. Without agreements, you have nothing. The fundamental agreement is the word definition. If you want to have fun at work, go and try to get folks to agree on a definition for Scrum. That's a lot of fun. The Scrum Guide has something to say about this. It says the definitive guide to Scrum, the rules of the game. So apparently part of the definition of Scrum, according to Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schwaber, who are not authorities in any sense of that term, have defined Scrum as a game. So perhaps we need to now view Scrum as a game when we discuss it at work And maybe it'd be a good idea to use the Scrum Guide as the definition, just for now. Not forever, but just for now, right? Okay, so Scrum agreements. The key rules in Scrum define how authority is distributed. And the most important task at work, the most important work, is the work of deciding. Isn't that interesting that Scrum says who can decide what? And there's very little overlap across the roles. So most problems in Scrum are about who gets to decide. And we just kind of learned that in the exercise here, didn't we? Okay. So maybe part of the problem we're having is that no one really agreed. Maybe we just never explicitly took the step to agree to what the rules are. So I'd like you to turn to the person next to you and tell them the story of when you explicitly agreed to play by the rules of Scrum. If you don't have a story like that, then just tell them and then let them go. Okay, so take a minute and just do that. When did you agree? And what were you agreeing to? Just take a minute or two. And if you don't have that story, that's fine. I'm sorry to kind of go fast, and maybe I'm rushing you just a little bit, but we need to stay on schedule because after all, we do have an agreement about that, don't we? So we need to keep our commitments, and so that's the reason for this sort of rapid pace here, okay? So I apologize for that. Okay, here, let's go. Okay, so empiricism is learning by experience. It's absolutely core to Agile thinking, Scrum in particular. Experiments are at the core of good agility. Experiments are uncertain. Experiments have no clear answer until they're completed. Experiments can be stressful. They can also be expensive. And if we get good at experimentation, we learn to do low-cost, high-learning yield experiments. Low-cost, high-learning yield, at least potentially, right? So experimentation is a very big deal. This is a very important thing to focus on. The process of changing is therefore best framed as an experiment. The process of changing itself is best framed as an experiment. Why? Because it's easier to get a commitment from people when the commitment size is smaller. That's why. If we're going to just do Agile until further notice, isn't that kind of constraining? Doesn't that just kind of work against your freedom? But if it's an experiment, if it's something we're going to inspect, well, that's kind of fun. Because now I can say what I think and feel at the end, and we can really, really do something. Okay? So, usually the transformation, quote, transformation, is actually inspected not by everyone, but by the higher-ups, the people with more authority. There's several problems with that. We don't have enough time to enumerate them. We could go off for an hour about that very, very easily. But let's just say for now that the inspection is best done by everyone. This is the way you're going to tap the collective intelligence of the group. This is the way you're going to engage the entire enterprise. You're not going to engage the entire enterprise by making decisions for people that affect them. Okay? So, ask yourself, is the implementation of Agile practices at my company an experiment to be inspected? Or is it a soul-sucking death march from hell? Which is it? Or is it somewhere in between? Find someone, maybe someone a little different, move over a seat or two, and go in and find out. Go and find out. You tell them, have them tell you. Take a minute each and just go do that. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so sad that we can't go further with this particular exercise because this is actually at the root of what's between us and greatness. That's the reality. That's the truth of it all. What's between us and greatness is an unwillingness to work with the willing people first, right? To work with the willing. The willing are the key to your success, not the unwilling. Okay, so let's take a look at self-management. Here's how it goes. You know, birds flock, fish school, humans mob, right? I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about groups of people working in teams that are doing goal seeking. In that context, self-organization is self-management. So the real question is, what is self-management? Self-management is the management of decision-making. That's what you're managing. Self-managed teams know how they make decisions. The other kind of teams don't. Walk around as homework tomorrow and ask individuals and teams. Throat clearing sound here. Hey, how does your team make decisions? And you're going to get a story, or maybe no story. If you get a very clear story, oh yeah, we know how we make decisions. We tore that apart and we put it back together. We know exactly how we make decisions. We have a protocol and we have a procedure. We know exactly how we do it. When you get that answer, you know that that team is self-managing, okay? So here's the moral of the story. Decision-making triggers self-management and engagement. That's the reality. So if you want more self-management, offer more decision-making. I think that engagement is the name of the game. Jeff Sutherland says that teams can double productivity and double again. I think what really happens is the level of engagement is doubling and doubling again. Because how can we actually be productive without paying attention? It's just not possible. So, there's something about decision-making. I want you to do something. We're going to skip this exercise, but I want you for homework to consider this. How many people here convene meetings, have the authority to call meetings? Well, that's a lot of people. In the next 5 business days, I want you to, as an experiment, as an Agile experiment, I want you to make one meeting optional. How many people here use Outlook? Everyone. When you, you're laughing because it's kind of a joke? Is that it? Yeah. Well, here's something that's really funny about Outlook, okay? Here's what it is. When you convene the meeting, they call it a meeting, what? Invitation. But we don't actually invite people. They have to come. So ask yourself how engaging that's going to be if you're taking the decision away. And ask yourself how much you trust them to invest their scarce and valuable time where it can do the most good for the organization today. Right? I don't want to ruin the fun for you. I want you to make a meeting optional, announce it as optional, explain why, and then watch what happens. And I would really like to receive an email from you when you get that learning, because it's going to be fun. I don't want to ruin it for you. There's a riddle inside an enigma, inside a conundrum, inside a paradox there that's very, very interesting. Okay, so inviting as a leadership art, I think the biggest management and leadership skill of the next 10, 15, 20 years is the art of inviting. Invitation as a leadership art is going to become something very hot in management and leadership circles very shortly, I assure you. So start to learn about invitation. When you invite someone, you are triggering engagement because every invitation requires a decision. Think about that. All right, so we know what the ideal case is. It's a 100% feeling of control, belonging, and progress, and of course, sense of purpose, right? We know the ideal. We've explored the impediments. Why don't we just get right into removing them? Fair? Okay, let's take a look. We still have about 8 minutes left, 8.5 minutes. Okay, thing 1. Leaders go first. Not teams, leaders. What do I mean by this? Leaders do their leadership work in an agile way for a month or 2 or 3. What does it mean? It means they have a backlog. It means they have a daily meeting. It means they demo their work at the end of the sprint, their leadership work. Who do they demo to? The people who report to them. That's who. The whole tribe. There's many good and sound reasons for leaders to go first. If they don't go first, maybe they're really not committed to the enterprise-wide transformation they say that they want. Thing two, make your entire Agile enterprise transformation an experiment. The whole thing's an experiment. We love the virtue of pull, don't we? Pull is good. Pull, it has beauty. There's wisdom in pull. Yet, what we do is we use push to implement pull. And we assess, we train, and we coach. That's just kind of like analysis, design, and implementation. Does that sound familiar to you? Yeah, it's got, here's a hint, phased gate, right? We are using phased gate waterfall style push to implement pull. It makes no sense. We're in conflict with ourselves. Something's terribly wrong here. Thing three, work with the willing people. The unwilling not only cannot help you, they will not help you. Fair? Thank you. Thank you for saying. Thank you for saying. Self-management's what actually scales, not your framework. So I don't care what framework you're using. If you can bring it to self-management, it's going to work, because self-management is what scales, not your framework. Think about that when you go back to work. Thing four, start and end enterprise-wide iterations of transformation with open space meetings that are invitational. Everyone's invited, and it's 100% optional to attend. This is a very radical idea. It also happens to work. Why? Because everyone's in. And the people that aren't in are going to feel out very shortly, because the culture is going to ask them why they're not in. Because you're going to be making progress. And you know what? You're going to have a sense of belonging in that progress, and you're going to have a firm sense of control as you move forward together. And that's going to change everything for you. Okay? So, if you want to get this done, here's the talking points. Rapid feedback, reduced cost, management of risk. This is how you discuss it with highly authorized leaders. OpenSpace is a great all-hands meeting format to finding out what the group's willing to do. There's this concept of the adjacent possible. What's adjacently possible? Where we can go from here. Kind of like in this conference. We have a set of adjacent possibilities that are in the near-term future. We have plans, but we don't know what's going to happen. There's a whole set of adjacent possibilities. OpenSpace helps you with that at the level of enterprise. I already asked you this question. I already asked you that question. I already asked you that question. Okay. The primary output from OpenSpace is a physical document. It's put in a PDF and shipped to everyone, the proceedings. That becomes the basis of a new story and a new culture and a new way of doing things. So the proceedings are very, very important. You've seen OpenSpace at conferences. I'm here to tell you, if you haven't experienced it inside an enterprise-wide, optional, 100% optional to attend meeting, you have not experienced OpenSpace in the way that it's actually designed to be used. OpenSpace has the power to transform your transformation. That's the reality. This is a super agile way to implement Agile. Get everyone in one room, put them in a circle, put up a bulletin board, and go to work. This is the way to get things done very quickly. It's an agendaless meeting that only has a theme, but it does have a structure. There's a law, there's 5 principles, there's a set of roles. It's not chaos. Here's the small groups. Here's another small group. Some small groups are more like tutorials like this one. Others are more like conversations among peers with dialogue. Whatever happens is the only thing that could happen in open space. Okay? The newsroom is where the proceedings are generated. When people call sessions, they're required, obligated, and it's their duty to see to it that the proceedings get generated. If you're not going to generate the proceedings, don't call the session. That's one of the rules of open space. Okay, here's what it looks like in the closing circle. OpenSpace Agility has a very, very light framework over OpenSpace that begins and ends what we call a chapter of learning in OpenSpace. It's a designed experience. It's designed to transform your transformation. It's designed to trigger massive levels of self-management, engagement, and feelings of control, sense, and belonging. It also taps the collective wisdom of the entire group in the fastest way possible. It's built on self-management, invitation, informed consent, experimentation. All the things you're going to need for success with your transformation. Those 2 big green circles there, that's the beginning open space meeting and an ending open space meeting. In between the 2 red bars, there's a 45 to 100 days of experimentation with Agile practices. And then we inspect that. So when they go to the first meeting and they see the format, and they realize, the whole group realizes, in 100 days we're going to do this again, and I can say whatever I want about the transformation, or so-called transformation, you're going to see some really, really great and rapid results very quick through the use of OpenSpace inside an enterprise-wide iteration on the transformation itself. So there it is. Leaders go first. Frame it as an experiment. Work with the willing people and begin and end an open space. Okay, we're right at the end. Here's the story. For a discussion of OpenSpace Agility, there's this book, the OpenSpace Agility Handbook. It has a Kindle edition. If you sign up for my list by tomorrow at midnight, I'll give you a free copy of the Kindle edition of this book. I'll just send it to you. Thank you, thank you. And you know what? We're right at the end. I'm sorry you can't ask me a question, but I'm here for 2 days, so don't be afraid to come right up to me. Thank you very much.